Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It seems that floods are a yearly phenomenon. Almost every year since 2010, some kind of flood is coming. And at the end of the season, it is estimated that it was a major flood. If not major, that sizable flood after the mega floods of 2010. Is it a changing climate? And if this is because of the change of the climate, then what should we do? Should we build more dams to avoid flood and have irrigation and electricity at the same time, or some small embankments, or some awareness campaign? What is the solution? What is the way forward? Just to know a sort of our research and know in real time, we have invited today Mr. Shamsul Mulk, who had been Chairman Wapda and has been Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well, and he's one of the authorities who know this trilateral issue: floods, irrigation, electricity and infrastructure. Very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
First of all, would you like to, for the benefit of the viewer, take some sort of stock about the floods this year, and are they related to climate change?
Well, I don't know whether they are related to climate change or not, but even without climate change, in the past almost about 60-70 years of Pakistan's existence, we have had about 15 major floods. And we should have known that Indus Valley is quite vulnerable to major floods. Major floods is a yearly phenomenon. Because what happens is that about 84% of the total annual flow of the Indus River system comes in the 6 months of the year, and only 16% is left to come and flow in the other 6 months of winter. And out of this 84% that comes in the summer months, most of it comes in 70 days. Therefore, when Wapda, right in the beginning, I'm talking now of much earlier, even before Wapda had been established. I'm talking of the government of Pakistan, because soon after independence, when the government collected those people who were to prepare Pakistan's vision of the future, and they met and they thought what would we do. They did realize that Pakistan was very deficient, number one, in electricity. You wouldn't believe it. The total amount of electricity that was generated say I'm talking of 50s and 60s, that was about 62 megawatts. This was all the electricity we had. And people did realize that per capita electricity consumption had become a barometer of development, and therefore if Pakistan has to develop, then we have to go far beyond what we had. Secondly, that Indus Plain is very vulnerable to floods. We have known this right from the beginning. You see, the flood of 1951, I don't think people have forgotten that. And these were the floods which were coming every 3-4 years later. So the question was that we needed something for flood control. Number 3, we also know, and we had known it also, that Pakistan's agriculture is very deficient in the matter of supplying water to the winter crops in a manner that it meets the needs of the crops around its growth. Since we were not able to do that, we had the lowest yields in the world. How much wheat per acre is produced in Pakistan and how much is produced in, say, Egypt or somewhere else. And this led our forefathers to think that what we need to do. And the most natural solution was that we need to build large reservoirs for the reason that it is the one infrastructure which will meet our three requirements. If you want to have electricity, then you will need a powerhouse on thermal side. It will only produce electricity. If you want to do flood embankments, it will only do flood protection. And very uncertain, because flood embankments could breach. Then what do? Dams don't breach, but flood embankments do breach. Then what do? So, and thirdly, that if you want to also provide electricity, water, then what you need to do is to have only barrages which will only produce water for agriculture, but there will be no water in the rivers because it's the winter season, so there is no water. The only natural God provided, blessed alternative that Pakistan had was to build large reservoirs and large dams, and that is how they planned it. I will tell you one thing. Today, in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, what Wapda's plan was that we will build Kalabagh Dam by 1967, to complete it by 1994. That is what Wapda's plan was. And then the Bhasha Dam by 2010. Now, just think of it.
Here we take a short break, and after the break we'll continue our discussion, so please don't go away.
It's diverse.
It's original.
It's SDTV.
Welcome back. Before the break, Shamsul Mulk Sahab, you were telling us what the initial thinking, which was very genuine and sort of generic as well, about the future, and did they, incorporated all these things which we are...
You see, they were very clear in their minds. First and foremost, they were not influenced by any lobbies.
Right.
You see, they were not influenced by any prejudices. They were influenced by only one thing. What should it be that should meet the requirements of the people, all the people of all the provinces, of all the villages, of all the districts, of all the provinces of Pakistan. That was important. And what they did know was that we have Indus River system, which is the 5th largest system in the world. We have a very extensive irrigation network, which we have inherited at the time of independence. At the same time, we have an enormous potential for industrialization. And what was needed was, number one, as I told you, that Indus River's waters, 64% flows only in one season and 16 in another. We have to even it out. Such a variation was not good. So it had to be evened out. How do you even it out? It's just like a person who has actually, in the whole year, he has 2 crops, and when the crops come along, he is very rich. Now, if he starts spending that money, which he earns in 2 months or 3 months of the crop, sort of sale, then he's poor for the next 6 months. The best thing for him is that he should deposit that money in a bank and slowly and steadily throughout the year then draw that money from the bank. That is what the dams were, the reservoirs were.
They were water bank.
They were water banks. You needed water banks. What the water bank would do is to reduce the flow during the floods and make that very water available for you to meet the requirements of the crops during the winter season.
Yeah, that was the.
At the same time, it will produce electricity, which will be a very inexpensive one. Today, the hydroelectricity, Mangla, Tarvela and Ghazi Balota, the average cost of generation is rupee 1.54 per unit, compared to 20 rupees and 25 rupees.
That includes the initial investment. I mean,
because the initial investment has now gone. It is. I mean, what I'm saying is, it is over.
It has been paid.
It's been paid. It's paid off. The beauty of a hydel is that with the passage of time, its prices reduce. In the case of thermal, its prices increase.
Obviously.
Because the biggest item of generating electricity, the best item of cost in generation of electricity is the fuel. If the fuel is gas, you price it on that basis. If it is oil, you price it on that basis. In case of hydel projects, there is no fuel. There is no fuel. So therefore it's free. That's why 1.54 today, 1.54 rupees today is the price of that. Now, so they decided that we must build reservoirs. And in 1980, Wapda's plan was to build Kalabagh by 1994 and build Bhasha by 2010 and then prepare a plan for the period beyond how to proceed further. Can you imagine today if Mangla, if Kalabagh and Bhasha Dam were here?
About 8,000 megawatt.
9,000 megawatts will be here. Not 18 rupees a unit, 2-3 rupees a unit. Number one. Your circular debt will not be there. Number one. Number two, and do you know that the flood of 2010 will look like an ordinary flood with Bhasha and Kalabagh? People don't know. Let me tell you this. That I was reading, somebody was telling me there is an article, somebody says that there should be what is it called, the flood control projects, and these projects are not flood control projects. Sometimes I don't know. If people don't know, then they should not speak. Because when they don't know, they speak, they lie. It is natural. They don't know. Perhaps even they don't know that they are lying. Because what has happened is that in the 2000 flood, a flood came of about 853,000 cusics at Tarbela on 30th July. And that was a time when the reservoir was almost full. So they did not have much of time, much of storage space. Yet they were able to divert about 250,000 cusics into the storage, leaving only 6 lakhs cusics into the Indus. It was saving that, it was storing that 2,53,000 cusics that saved Nowshera. It was that which saved the most important infrastructure of Pakistan irrigation system, and that is the Sakar barrage. Imagine if there had been 2 more reservoirs, and in addition to 2,53,000 at Tarbela. You had stored, say, about 2 lakhs and 3 lakhs, say 3 lakhs at Bhasha and 1 lakh at Kalabagh. That flood
would have been ordinary flood.
Ordinary flood. An ordinary flood. Why don't people understand this? No, because they are lying. No, tell me, they are lying.
Yeah.
Because first of all, either if you don't know, then you shouldn't speak. And if you don't know and you speak, then you should know that you may not mean it, but you will be lying.
Would you, for some in sort of, I mean, would you quantify the economic wastage? Which, for example, they say when Tarbela Dam was commissioned, it was equivalent to 2% of the GDP at that time. Now the GDP is much bigger, and that was only 7 to 8 million acre feet. And in 2010, 59 million acre feet of water went into the Arabian Sea after this devastation. And had we 2 more reservoirs, we could have stored about 14 million acre feet or something, or 10 million acre feet or something. Would you give some sort of a number? Would you compare with in sort
I think
of numbers?
you better ask this from an economist. You better ask this question from an economist and just ask him that what is the opportunity value of a million acre foot of water in the context
But
of
do you
Pakistan.
believe this 2% of the GDP is true?
Well, I don't know. I'm not an
At that
economist.
time,
I'm not an economist. I don't know. Must be true. Why should somebody, someone who has ventured to give this figure? The question is this. Let me tell you. The hydels are giving you 29 billion units of electricity at a cost of 1.5 rupees.
29 billion.
29 billion. If it had been 12 billion of Kalabagh, it would be 41 billion. And if it had been another 15 from Bhasha, how much it is? How much it would be? 41 plus 15, how much it is?
41 plus, this
65.
is 50, 65.
55. 55 billion units of electricity if your system was getting at 1.5 rupees, which now it is getting at 9 rupees, then it means this will be an additional cost of about 8 million rupees, 8 billion rupees. Multiply 8 by 59, by 56. How much do you get?
A lot of.
You get about 700 billion rupees of additionality, which is $7 billion.
$7 billion.
Is that not a smart amount? I'm making a very
In
rough
electricity
rough
alone.
Electricity alone.
Yeah.
I'm not talking of that.
And saving the infrastructure which has to be rebuilt and the loans,
imagine that
and agriculture.
The 10 billion of this, what is it called?
Since you were in Wapda, what was the planning? I mean, if
Planning was very simple.
No, had the Kalabagh Dam would be there. If you built a Kalabagh, then would you like to bring more areas, convert into irrigated areas?
See, Wapda's plan was only that we must provide, number one, foremost was, to the current agriculture we must provide adequate water for its growth in winter, so that the distortion that exists,
Winter crops.
the distortion that exists, that is eliminated. Pakistan's agriculture should become almost as productive as any other productive
Winter crop
agriculture.
is wheat.
Very weak because it doesn't have water. You see, every
Wheat is a winter crop.
what I'm saying is, it's not only wheat, so many other crops that
I mean,
that
wheat
take
is a
place.
staple food.
Yes,
That's
staple
why.
food, but there are other things which can also give you a lot of output. So this is what happened. Now, It is not the question. The question is, you can sometimes do something looks very attractive, but there is something which you find out is better than that. And you can leave that thing. I don't mind if the people of Pakistan had said that we don't want to build dams. Good enough. But then tell me, which other alternative is financially cheaper than this? Tell me, could you get electricity at someone else at 1 rupee a unit? Could you get that? Could you?
Right. Obviously, there is no other alternative. So here we take another break, and after the break, we will try to conclude and bring conclusions for the audience. So please stay with us.
It's diverse.
It's original.
It's SDTV.
Welcome back. Would you like to conclude the discussion? What is the take home?
The take home is that Pakistan leadership has been very cruel to the people of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan did not deserve the treatment that they have been faced with. There was a time, I lived through those times, when the world believed that Pakistan was going to become an Asian tiger. I've seen those days. Pakistan is not currently anywhere near that and that potential. And at that time, India was there. India's population was there. China was there, China's population was there. But it was Pakistan, people used to say, is going to become an Asian tiger. Why haven't we reached that? Because from 1980, you have followed a route which the worst enemies of Pakistan would have wished Pakistan to take. And that is, don't build dams, don't develop your natural resources. And when you don't develop natural resources, you see, if you negate the nature, you pay a very heavy price. Pakistan's natural resource was that you had about 55,000 megawatts of electricity generation potential, and you got stuck at 6,000, and thereafter you go to thermal. You are doing a very unnatural thing. And on what basis and what pretext and what premise? There is no consensus on Kalabagh, therefore we will find a consensus for Kalabagh. We will find a project on which there is a consensus. And then you work for 20 years and you find that alternative. And what is that alternative? Load shedding. Economic ruination of Pakistan. You see, 18 rupees and 20 rupees a unit of electricity. This is what you found as an alternative to not building Kalabagh and Bhasha. And that is what we have lived through. This was not inflicted on us by any outside country. It was inflicted by us, by our leadership.
Do you think it's possible to build these two dams
Why not?
Simultaneously?
Why not? If you can build Dasu and Bhasha simultaneously, why don't you build Kalabagh and Bhasha simultaneously?
But there's a little work on Dasu and Bhasha as well. The work is delayed.
Then you will suffer again. You will suffer more.
It's a very menial work if you go there.
The question is, you want to continue with your sufferance. You want to continue with your sufferance. You love to suffer. Good enough?
Then suffer you must.
Then suffer you must.
Right. Thank you very much for coming in the program and sharing your very honest and calibrated views with us. With this, we come to the end of the program. Next time, next guest, next topic. So please keep watching our programs.